Hello there, Z-Manzilla here, and I've been asked to do a tutorial on how to create custom random mob groups. Now, the tutorial in question, by the way, thank you for this, David Alcaraz, and I'm very, very sorry that it has taken me this long to get you a proper tutorial on this. I really do apologize. In any case, this is the idea behind this is that you are able to. This is for folks that want to do like survival arenas. You want to do any sort of random content for a module. Any time you feel like you want the experience of your map to have randomized groups of enemies but still be fair, then this is the tutorial for you. So I call these custom random mob generators. It's something I'm going to be using with I'll show you here. I'm doing a map called the Dosh Pit. Some of you may have already seen some of the earlier build stuff for this. The idea is that it's kind of like a game show, and the idea is that it spawns random mobs. Now, in my case, when you play this map, when the mobs get spawned, they get fired out of these cannons into the field of battle. All right, and so that's part of the technique here. You're using teleporters primarily, but you can do a lot of stuff with the teleporters. But the basic principle is that my mobs enter the field of battle via these cannons. All right, but they do so randomly. All right, like each time you play this map, it's doing a different it's doing a different set of mobs every time. And the reason that works is because it's all hooked up to this little area back here. Now, this looks a little more complicated than it needs to be, but don't worry, I'm going to be building one for you in a bit. So I just want to explain the basic principle behind it first and the way that it works. So what's happening here is, I basically made spawners of each of the critters that you can possibly have, and above there, as a note to myself, I just wrote the point values of each one. So, like for instance, all unwillings are worth 25 points, all engineers are worth 50, soldiers are worth 100, etc., etc. So you always know what the point values are. Now, what I've done is I've created a series of custom events that can be called randomly, and each one spawns a specific set of mobs, but it does so based on their point value. So for instance, you've got this first custom event that dispenses 500 points worth of mobs. So the encounter spawns have been linked to a 200 and a 300. This one will only spawn 2 mobs worth 500 points, but they'll be pretty beefy, a Hellraiser and a Pinky. All right, and then also worth 500 points is this one here that spawns 4 different encounters, including a couple of unwillings and let's see what else. I believe a soldier is in there somewhere. Right on to this one here that manages to make its 500 points based almost entirely on unwillings and little dudes and stuff. So you basically you create these custom events that spawn your enemies spawns a number of enemies based on their point values. All right, and then in turn, when when every single one of these spawners spawns, it gets hooked up to a teleporter, and this is where your mobs are entering the field of battle. So they come through the teleporter into here, and then you can just you have a bunch of teleporter destinations hooked up to a random relay, and it just makes the dudes come in from all of those predetermined points that you want your mobs to come in on. So that's why you have more control now, rather than using the automated events, is because you can put these teleporters right where you want them, anywhere in your map, from here to, even if you're doing something in like one of these, you can you put one right here, you put like one right here, and you can plan your mobs, your random distribution of mobs based on predetermined points. It makes your design a lot tighter, gives you a lot more control over the encounter. But the idea there is just that you're hooking everything up to these teleporter destinations. How to build a mob? Let's build a simple one. All right, let's take a look at our demon friends and see what's going on there. Let's pick some that I actually know. We'll pick 3. So we'll put the imps, who I know are worth 150. We'll put, let's see, it doesn't work well with imps, but we need imps. You always need imps. You always need imps. Oh man, I don't have all the point values memorized right now, unfortunately. So I gotta, let's see. So those are 150. Soldiers are 100. All right, and so single demon encounters. Doop, be doop, be do. No, we did not want to do that. There we go. All right. And, oh yeah, just in case. Show on start false. Start false. You're just there for illustrative purposes. Alright, world text. Okay. Again, this is, just something I like to do to make sure it makes it easier on myself while I'm working. Just make yourself a little label, and it shows on start false. This is to... okay. There you go. You, that says 100. Very good. What I have done here is I have created a single demon encounter for just an imp, a single demon encounter just for the possessed soldier. These guys here are just for illustrative purposes. They don't actually need to be there, so just don't ignore them if you wish. We're just focusing on the logics itself. So you got your single demon encounters, right? Okay. Now what you need is a custom event. Now get used to this one. You're going to need a lot of these. You're going to need a lot of these. So, and the thing is, you can't just you can just, or can you? I forget. All right. Anyway, you cannot. That's right. So okay. So the idea here is that you have to create each of these custom events as their own thing. So we are going to call this one. We want the point values here to come out to 600 points. So we're going to name this one 600A. All right. And 600A's job is to generate 600 points worth of these guys. So how's it going to do that? Well, so let's say, or no, we want 300 points. Is that right? No, 600. Yeah, 600 is correct. Okay, so what are some ways we can make 600 points worth of things? So when it's signaled, it's going to spawn this encounter here. All right, but it has to spawn it because we're looking for 600 here. So if we make it spawn 4 of these, then that's 600 points. So the way I fix these up, so I always know what I'm doing, by the way, is obviously you want to snap all these to the grid. Make them look nice and pretty, Now, the reason I stack them like this is just it's easier for my visibility. There's another thing I've been seeing people do where they just snap everything to the ground. I personally don't like that. I feel like it takes up real estate. So I like to do that. That way, I can just sort of select the whole patch of code a lot easier and just hover it someplace out of my way. So yeah, that's the main reason I clean up my code like this. So anyway, we're going to take this encounter spawner and just spoop it right there now. All right, now we need another thing, by the way, to make this work. Well, first off, let's go ahead and set this up so that it spawns the number of encounters we need. So I'm just going to actually raise that up a little bit so I have space in the center. You'll see why in a minute. So this spawner spawns that once, right? How are we going to get more spawners? Well, if we duplicate this one and use our fun little slippy slidey thing like so, we can just create as many of these as we need. Now, I like to put them on a 2-second delay from one another. This is to prevent process bottlenecking. I don't know if it's even a real thing. It's just a theory I have about the way SNAPMAP works, that if you manually delay the inputs of things that are all supposed to sort of happen at the same time, it prevents locking up because the processor's not trying to do 8,000 things at once. You're spacing out the functions. So that's again, it's a theory I have about why like some of the effects that I'm able to pull off that other people keep getting all kinds of jitters for, and also some of the things that keep getting jitters in Devil City Ransom that I didn't do this with, like. I just have this theory that spacing out the input delays prevents process bottlenecking, so which is better for performance. You make another spawn encounter, and you make this one. This is going to be again another 0.2 seconds, and a fourth Again, another 0.2 seconds. So this should be going, regular, 2, 4, 6. If you believe, as I believe, that you should do it that way. So, okay, so now each of these, now here's a nifty little trick. If you're playing on Xbox One or PS, I think this works on PS4 as well. So you want you want it to spawn this encounter here. So or excuse me, you want on signaled. It's got to spawn this, 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 and this. It's already connected to this, so you're going to connect it to this. But before you connect it, check this out. Hold down your left trigger, right? And now, while you have this line of stuff selected here, you select this one here. You put it down, and your line is still going, so you can go move on to the next one. It makes this so much quicker if you do it that way. Now you just you want it to get out of that mode. You just take your finger off the trigger. So I was able to connect that one node to all of these without having to go back and restring another one each time. All right, so now all of these are going to get activated, but they ain't hooked up to this yet. So, okay, so this you're going to have to do manually, whatever. But all right, that spawner, and finally that spawner. So what's happened here is this is worth 600 points, and it is spawning this imp 4 times, equaling 600 points. All right. Another thing that needs to happen in order for you to be able to keep track of what it is you're doing, you are going to need an integer. Or yes, an integer. All right. And this integer is what keeps track of how many dudes have been spawned. All right. And we're going to call this integer, or I am at the very least. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call it Demon Alive, or Demons Alive. All right, yeah, all one word. Demon Saliva. There you go. All right, we're going to choose an icon for it. We're going to just call it this one there. So, okay, so we want the minimum value on this to be 0. You do not want it to be possible to have negative numbers on this thing. Set the max value. Leave it at 10 grand. It's never going to get that high, but if it does, there's something wrong with your map. In any case, the job of Demons Alive is to keep track of how many demons are on the field of battle at any given time. All right, and that is a necessary function for this. You want to be able to keep track of how many dudes you got on the field of battle. So we're going to put that real high right here, and you are going to need it so that whenever one of these is signaled, it adds the exact number of demons you're spawning to Demons Alive. So in this case, we're spawning 1, 2, 3, 4. This integer needs to be set to 4. All right. All right, so every time one of these is signaled, it tells Demons Alive plus 4 demons have entered the field of battle, and then it spawns those 4 demons, and they're spaced out by 0.2 of a second. So, all right, and then I like to install it just right there because it makes it easier for me to just sort of keep track of it, like as I'm going along. It's very important you keep track of it as you're going along. Now, how to make a second one? Now, you cannot just copy and paste this entire string. The reason why is because if you copy it, you are making another copy of this instance of 600A. It counts as a single custom action, and each custom action needs to be generated uniquely. The rest of this does not. So here's how you do it. All right, here's the quick, easy way to make a whole ton of these custom events without too much fuss and muss. And what you do, you make another custom event. All right, it's got to be a new one. All right, you name that one. This one's going to be called 600B. All right. All right. All right. Okay. And just put this one like nice and close to this one somewhere, so it all, you just want to keep your code pretty. Then you do it that way. All right. Now, copy this, and just one of these. That's it. All right, you copy those, bring them over, and just going to say unsignaled, and just unsignaled. So you basically select unsignaled, and then you select that unsignaled node that you copied over from before. So literally, you just copy everything but this part. You bring those over, you create your new one, and boom, same operational. However, you do have to remember every time to change that integer. So, for example, another example of 600 points is we might want to generate 6 of these guys. You now need to, okay, so you now need to connect all of these as well. So, any of them that aren't connected, and again, remember that trick with the left mouse trigger, or the left trigger button, to select those quicker. All right, so now you got 6 of these, so you have to every time remember to change that integer to the correct number. If any one of these is wrong, it will cause problems in your map. Just put a pin in that. All right, so your integer must be to the same number as the number of spawners you're using, and then from there you just hook it up to your spawners. All right, 1, 2, 6. All right, there's your 6. Okay, now, and again, that needs to also be hooked up to Demons Alive. If it is not, it won't work. So, okay, we're going to do one more, and this one's going to be a mixed bag. So, okay, so again, we only need to copy these 3. So, make a copy of them, put it over here. To get a 600-point mixed bag, one of several ways we could do it is you get 2 of these, so 300. And actually, there aren't a whole lot of ways. So 300, 400, 500, 600. So 2 of them and 3 of them. So that equals 5. So we would need 5 spawners for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We needed, what was it again? 2 imps. And 3 soldiers. All right. All right. There we go. All right. So we have set up a very rudimentary database here that creates one of 3 sets of mobs whenever it is called. Whenever it is called upon, it will signal and spawn X number of spawns. Unfortunately, I appear to have forgotten to turn off the teleport effect on them. I'm just going to do that real quick. I probably should have done this before. But turning the teleport effect off is not necessary. I feel like it's just your application is much better. You have like a much better application with it because you have to use a teleporter to get them into the FOB anyway. So, it gives you more opportunities to do cool stuff if you just turn off the doggone teleport visual effect, and then they appear instantly and they're ready to go. You can actually get rid of these. Yeah, we can. I don't need them anymore. We've set up a very basic concept here, which is the 3 different ways in which your room will spawn 600 points worth of dudes. All right. Now your next task is this here. You can make this as large as you want. Like I said, you can have a wide variety of spawners. You just basically you go to SnapWiki and you look up the point values of the mobs. And failing that, you can just as easily go in and just turn the scoring on and just shoot every one of the mobs, and the score value flies above their head. In any case, you're using the point values to kind of keep things fair and balanced while at the same time good and random. Now, so we've set up the first part of our database. We have 3 different ways in which 600 points worth of demons can be created. All right, but once created, they have to be sent somewhere. So now, let's imagine for a moment. It's not that hard if we try. That we are going to let's grab a hallway. Just a real simple hallway here. All right, not quite what I was going for, but all right. There. Okay. Now, we've decided that combat is going to happen in here. Now, let's pick some... where are some spots where all of these dudes can just start showing up? All right. Let's pick some teleport locations here. All right. Gameplay. Teleport destinations. So let's see. They're going to enter the room this way. So let's put a spawner. Let's put a spawner here, or a destination here. A destination here. Destination here. Destination here. Oh, why not another one here? So, let's see. So that's 7 is plenty, I think. All right. Now, got 7 places where our mobs can end up whenever generated. All right. So, how are we going to get them over here? All right. So we head on over here. All right. So, demon spawned. Okay. We are actually going to be signaling a random relay. All right. So let's. Where's our? Oh, that's under flow. All right. So random relay. Okay. So signal the random relay. All right. So. All right. And. Or wait. Do we? Unspawned. Same thing. There we go. So whenever they're spawned, they're going to signal this random relay. Alright, and now you need a bunch of random relay signals that are going to lead to those teleporters. Alright, so here's one. There you go. Okay, so alright. Let me see here. Alright, so that's... Now here's the thing. You do have to generate a new one of these for every time, for each one. Because now, the good news is, like the other stuff, you can just sort of copy and hover like that to keep everything all nice and organized. Now we know you're going to need 7 of these. Alright, so here's our random relays here. So we just got to manually unsignaled for each one. Alright, and now, make things easy on us here. We're just going to select all these and just bring them with us, you know? Alright, so there we go. Alright, each of these gets hooked up to a teleporter. But okay, so we've taken all these random relays, we've hooked them up to things within the room here. Alright, so you can just sort of take these all back with us, you know, just to... Alright, so what ends up happening is when one of these gets triggered, it sends its signal over to here, which in turn sends, you know, as soon as they get spawned, they come through the pipes through here and enter the field of battle randomly. Now, there's another setting I'm going to want to set here. Run once should be false. Choose unique outputs should be true. And the reason you want to do that as true is because you basically want you've picked where you want the enemies to appear, and if you set that to unique outputs true, then what happens is it actually uses all of them, as opposed to like basically just like at some point you end up with this giant cluster of dudes in one spot in the room. So to avoid that, choose unique outputs true. And then reset signaled outputs. If just reset after all of them have been signaled, you also want that. You want reset signaled outputs to also be true. So that what happens is even after all of them run, it'll still run again. This is just a good habit to make so that you can actually scale this system up to as big as you need it. You can make it generate dozens or even hundreds of demons. So, but those both have to be set to true. There you go. So, it'll spawn the dudes. It'll send them out the pipes to the teleporters. Okay, so now you just need a way to trigger these, and this is where it gets cool. All right, so all right, so now 600A, 600B, 600C. We're going to want to reference these in a moment here. So okay, so the board goes this way. All right. All right, here's our... Those are the 3 different types of mobs that can spawn. All right, so now we're going to do an on module entered. Game under gameplay. So, all right, here we go. Okay. On player entered, we are going to call another random relay. Where's our flow? All right, random relay. Signal. Okay. All right. So, one relay points that way. All right. There. Okay, we're going to copy these real quick. Here and there. All right. Signaled skadoosh. Signaled skadoosh. Signal that. Signal that. All right. Now, for added sauciness, we know that every time one of these is triggered, it's going to trigger 600 points worth of dudes. Say, for instance, we want it to generate 1,200 each time. You can actually have the signal count to 2. Right? Okay? So that will generate 1,200 points worth of enemies whenever somebody enters here, and it will be a different spread of them. So, one way or another. The balance of imps and soldiers will be different every time. One of 3 different, with that permutation, it would be 6, I think 6 possible combinations. 1, 2, 3, no, anyway, 3 different possible combinations. The point is that it does make it unique. So choose unique. Actually, we could set this one to choose unique output was either true or false. It wouldn't really matter, but I'm going to make it true anyway. And we don't need to reset the signal outputs, but we're going to anyway because let's get in the habit. Run once, false. All right, and then so the player enters. This gets triggered twice, which will make a bunch of dudes appear in here. All right, yeah, for funsies, we'll just player entered, make it lock this. Hey, you know what? No, it's just for testing. Okay, so here's what happens. Upon entering the module, those get signaled. Those send out the dudes randomly, and then we're also going to demonstrate the importance of the mob active thing. Let's get a copy of that. Demons alive. Okay. So. See. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So, we'll set this door to lock. All right. So, door status locked. Required keycard none. Locked message. Nope. No. All right, there we go. Oh, who cares? All right. All right. So, that's locked and then let's see. So, unchanged. Test integer. Test integer. Oh yeah, it's under variables. I think no, that's flow. Duh. Integer compare, I guess you call it. Yep, you're going to test this integer compare. That's whenever this changes. All right, and then if this is equal to 0, that will open always. All right. So on that, you're going to want to do the demons alive is equal to 0. So it's only going to test it when it changes. Or what you could also do, if you really want to get saucy with it, is if the current number is greater than 0, then it knows to lock this door. There you go. So now anytime the number of dudes is greater than 0, that door locks. But once it hits equal to 0, it will unlock. But it was weird because like it was off by. I'm gonna check my database integers again because that could very well be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, there it is. I knew it. That's what I figured it was. One of them was set wrong. Remember I was saying earlier how you have to manually like get in there and like do the numbers correctly, and there I was demonstrating. I knew there was going to be bugs. There's always bugs. So this needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a 5. Okay. Should work now. Okay. All right. Mob count 11. I want a higher mob count, please. I need higher than 12. 21. There we go. Now the fact that we went from 11 to 21 already tells us that the randomizer is working, because 11 and 11 plus 10 is 21, which means we got two different sums equaling two separate combinations. So we are rest assured here, and there's our open door. Okay, now if as an added bonus, yep, it closes us in again. Nice. Alright, gonna go grab the ammo, and it should give us more mobs again. Alright, that should bring us up to 14. We have once again surpassed the max AI limit. Let's make sure everything still works regardless. Alright. Alright. And boom, and it works. I'd call that a victory. If you are making a score-driven map, you want to keep track of those point values. You want to do things in the way of point value, because it means that no matter how many times the player plays your map with all the sort of random ways that the mobs can come up, they're always worth the same amount of points every time they generate. So as long as your generation rules stay consistent from playthrough to playthrough, then you're able to have, like every single time the player plays, this room will always generate 1,200 points worth of mobs, and the player will have the exact same amount of scoring opportunity regardless of the mixed bag of enemies that they get when they get to that room. That said, if you're trying to do a score-driven experience, here are some things you will need to keep in mind when you're making your groups. Let's go ahead and take a look at the demons, and this will probably be the last part of this thing here. So we're going to take a look at the demons. All right, here are some demons to avoid if you are trying to do a score-driven experience. Possess engineers. They are worth 50 points, but glory killing them without a power-up is virtually impossible. So they're not fair for scoring. All right. What was the other one I figured out? Possessed security are unfair for a random system because dealing with them effectively really does depend on the loadout. Now, if your experience is guaranteeing that the player always gets a grenade or some sort of an explosive or a plasma, any of the weapons that are specifically designed to get around the shield. If the player is 100% guaranteed to get those in every playthrough, then these guys are fair game. Otherwise, you do want to leave them out of a score-driven or a point-driven, score-driven experience, because depending on the permutation of the run, possessed securities may end up being unfair to put in there and expect an equal fairness value, as it were. Um, Keiko demons are I also feel questionable because they are a pure flying unit. And so it's dealing with them is not guaranteed. It's the same thing with the Lost Souls can't be glory killed at all. Keiko demons cannot be glory killed reliably, and for those reasons, I feel like in order to keep it a fair experience, you want to leave these guys out. As they are flying units, they also do sort of like wreak hell with your little teleport system. I'm not saying any of these mobs should never be used. I'm saying it's circumstantial. But for the most part, I avoid using these guys if I'm trying to keep it fair in a random situation. And then what's the other one I like to? No, those are the ones I pretty much like to avoid to keep things fair. Anything that requires any sort of special attention, you're really going to want to be careful about. Yeah, those are the main ones. I avoid putting in possessed security, Keiko demons, lost souls, and possessed engineers in this system because it does create some unfair scoring scenarios. It ruins your balance a little bit. Everybody else is pretty much fair game, and that is pretty much how you do this little technique. If you got any questions about that, by all means, you're going to want to ask those in the comments. And if you haven't already, I do hope you choose to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.